5. The inner world. Space pertains to the perception of things outwardly, as they are represented in objective relations. Time pertains to their perception inwardly, as they are represented in subjective relations. Every person is familiar with the three-dimensional conception of space, but comparatively few people are accustomed to think of time in that way. Yet a three-dimensional conception of time is just as essential to an adequate comprehension of the subjective phases of life, as is a three-dimensional conception of space to such a comprehension of its subjective phases. Nearly all phenomena of her outer world would be incomprehensible were it not for our recognition of three dimensions of space: length, breadth and depth. Quite as surely must certain phenomena of our inner world remain enigmatical until we regard them as dependent on a three-dimensional conception of time. Distance is the factor most readily appreciable in our conceptions of both space and time. In space, we locate objects by distance, and in time, we chronicle events by distance. The human mind is just as incapable of conceiving of an absolute beginning or end of time, as it is of conceiving of similar limitations of space. A stream of phenomena continues to pass in review before the mind as long as we view life in that way, i.e., estimate its duration, measure it by points related consecutively in time. But the inner aspect of things is revealed by means of other dimensions than length alone. Breadth and depth are modes of extension that pertain to time as well as to space. When we examine thought, we find that it possesses superficial, broadly extensive properties, requiring two dimensions of time for their representation. And still further, substantial properties, implying depth as well, and requiring three dimensions of time for their representation. Both dimension and number are elemental ideas which underlie all diversified forms of expression. They are in no way dependent on any particular class of phenomena with which they are associated. As we look observingly into the interior realm, we find that subjective phenomena, thoughts, mental things, are related in other ways than the linear alone.